Hello friends, I am Vicki and you are with Grammy in the Kitchen. This week we found some pork Boston butt on sale at Food Lion, so we went ahead and picked up 6 of those. 3 of them we're going to cook today, and we're going to make shelf-stable homemade pork barbecue, and we're going to make our own ketchup to turn into our own homemade barbecue sauce. If this is something you're interested in, stick around. Hit that subscribe button. We would love you to join the Grammy family. So without further ado, let's get started. Aprons on, let's get in the kitchen. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our canned pork barbecue. I went to Food Lion and they had these pork butts and they were on sale. They're regular price $2.29 and they had them on sale for 99 cents a pound. This particular one right here was $9.46. So I ended up getting 6 of these. I have 3 in the freezer and we're going to go ahead and cook and can these today. Let me show you what we have here. So that one was $9.46. It's a savings of $12.43. This one was $8.62, a savings of $11.33. And this one was $8.73, a savings of $11.47. So these 3 pieces of pork butt, we have 8.71 pounds, we have 9.56 pounds, and we have 8.82 pounds. So we have a total of 27 pounds of pork right here. And when I can potatoes, I can it in a vegetable broth and herbs, and there's some garlic in there. Let's see if I can get you to see. Let's see. Like right there is a big clove of garlic. So last night when we made potatoes, I just put these in a pan and sear them. I actually saved the juice and the garlic from one of these jars. So we're going to use that in there with the roast to add some liquid. And I do have some boxed chicken stock right here, as well as garlic powder, onion powder, and good old faithful, we have salt and pepper. And get the pork shoulders open and get them on the stove and sear them up. We do have the oven on heating at 375. Alright, so this is one of the pork butts. Does have a fat cap on the bottom. We're going to remove part of that. Go ahead and remove this fat cap. Okay, so we got majority of the fat off of this one. We're going to add some garlic powder, some onion powder, pepper, and salt. And we're going to put this, rub it in all over this pork roast. We're going to season this in layers, and we're actually going to make a homemade barbecue sauce to go into our jars when we're ready to can this up. Alright, so I've got that one seasoned. Now we're going to move over to the stove and we're going to sear it. So in this pan, we're going to put a little bit of avocado oil. Let that heat up. We have our first pork butt right here. That's our second one. Can you hear that? It is starting to sizzle. Is this pot and also this pot plus the baking sheet we were using to get everything in the oven. So this is the vegetable broth with the cloves of garlic that we had in our canned potatoes. I'm just going to put about a third of this in here. This is a little more than a cup. And I want to add just a little bit of chicken stock. You can use home canned or you can use store-bought. Just going to add another layer of flavor. See how our meat's doing. Oh yeah, we got some color on there. Can you see that? Alright, now we're going to try to... When you're cooking for your family and you're cooking from scratch, it takes time to cook delicious, healthy meals from scratch. But in my opinion, it's a labor of love. I know the food my family is eating. I know the ingredients that are in there because these are ingredients that we gathered from our pantry, from the store, from wherever a good source of healthy ingredients are. And we put them together and we make a delicious homemade meal. Even if it means shelf-stable, home-canned food, like we're going to do with this pork. I know the ingredients in it because I put them all together. Beautiful golden brown color right there. Now we're going to go ahead and pick it up and move it into this pan. Very carefully. I'm going to put a piece of aluminum foil over top of this. And we're going to put it in the oven. Alright, now we're just going to do the same thing to the other two pieces, and I'll bring you right back. Alright, so this is the second one. We're going to put it in this casserole dish. It's not as easy as it looks. Got some beautiful color. Okay, so I got all three pieces of the pork butts in the oven. We got it on 375. We're going to cook it for a minimum of 3.5 hours. It might take longer. I've never cooked 3 before, but we're going to see how long it takes. Whenever you open a container of broth. Doesn't matter what type of broth it is, whether it's store-bought or homemade. If you don't use the whole thing and you need to refrigerate it, I always put a date right there showing the date that I opened it. This is about half of a quart in here. That way I know that within 7 days of this date, I need to use this broth. So the next time I cook and I need something with broth, I always check the refrigerator first to see if I have any open containers, and I'll check the date to see if it's still good. So in the refrigerator, this will go with today's date on it. Our pork butts have been in the oven for 30 minutes. Figure we go ahead and take this time and go ahead and get started on our barbecue sauce. But we need to make some ketchup first. So I just be using tomato paste. 6-ounce can of tomato paste to a half a cup of vinegar, a 1/4 cup of sugar, a 1/4 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of mustard powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. We're making this recipe times 6. So I'm going to move you down so you can see what we're doing. Got a pot right here. So you can see my science project right here. So I have 6 cans of 6-ounce tomato paste. Just going to dump it right into this pot. We have 3 cups of apple cider vinegar. Let's get it from Azure Standard. It's a organic apple cider vinegar with the mother. We're going to add a little bit to our cans to make sure we get all the goodness out of here. Swirl it around. And we're just going to move this from one can to the next. I'm going to dump the rest of this vinegar in here. Right here I have the 1.5 cups of sugar. I am using a coconut sugar. 1.5 cups of water. 6 teaspoons of salt. 1.5 teaspoons of mustard powder. And this is 1.5 teaspoons of onion powder and 3/4 of a teaspoon of garlic. That is everything. We're going to move it to the stove. So we're at the stove. Let's get some fire underneath of it. And we want to cook this slow. So we're going to turn it on a medium-low heat. Get everything incorporated. And once the ketchup's done, then we're going to turn this into a barbecue sauce. Went ahead and grab the whisk. Get everything whisked together. Let's taste it. It's actually pretty good. We're going to put a lid on it and let it simmer slowly, stirring it occasionally. You do want to keep a lid on it because it will go splat on top. So you'll get splatters on the top. You don't want that all over your stove. So keep a lid on it and occasionally just stir it. I don't know if you could see that, but it's starting to splatter on the top. So we're just going to go in here and stir it. and put the lid back on. Let's give our ketchup a stir. It is splattering all over the inside the lid. Smells really, really good. I'm going to turn it down low and let it cook for another 15 minutes. The stainless steel pot that's on the stove with the ketchup in it actually has measurements on the inside, and I'm showing 2 quarts of ketchup in there. So the recipe that I used the last time I made this barbecue was 4 cups of ketchup. So since we've got 8 cups of ketchup, I'm actually doubling this recipe. Let me show you what we have so far for the barbecue sauce. Doubling this recipe to go with 8 cups of ketchup, I have 2 cups of mustard. And this is just a mustard I got from Aldi's. And I'm going to wear it right now. And it's pretty much this whole 20-ounce bottle. I have it turned upside down in a measuring cup just to get all the residual pieces out of it. 2 cups of brown sugar. This is homemade brown sugar we made together. I have 1.5 cups of apple cider vinegar. It's the same vinegar we use to make our ketchup. And I have 3 tablespoons of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of black pepper, 6 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. This is the lemon juice I use. I get it from Azure Standard. We're going to turn the flame off just so we don't have a lot of splatter while we're adding our barbecue stuff to it. So I'm going to scrape off the lid. So we have 1.5 cups of apple cider vinegar, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. We're adding 6 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 2 tablespoons of black pepper, 3 tablespoons of garlic powder, a little bit more than 2 cups of yellow mustard, and we have 2 cups of brown sugar. We're going to mix that all in there. Let's give it a taste and see if we need to add any salt or pepper to it. Nope, I think we're really good. Alright, so we're going to turn the stove on low. And we're going to continue to cook this barbecue sauce for about 15 to 20 minutes. Doesn't have to cook too long. Alright, so we're going to put the lid back on it. Turn the flame on. We're just going to turn it way down low and let it cook for about 20 minutes. So I decided I'm going to add just a little bit of the red pepper flakes. Maybe a half of a teaspoon, just to add a little kick to that barbecue sauce. So we're going to give that a stir. And again, we're going to let it just sit on the stove and simmer. Low and slow. Alright, so we're 2 hours in cooking this pork. It's not done yet. But since we're going to shred it up anyway, we're just going to go ahead and cut into it so that he can get inside of it. Just to help it cook a little bit. Cutting into it, just opening it up a little bit so that it could cook a little bit faster. And we're just going to put that back in the oven. We're going to do this for all 3 pieces. So Okay, so the pork has been cooking for 3.5 hours. I think it's ready to go ahead and move on to the next step. We're going to go ahead and take it out of the oven, and we're going to bring it over here to the island and start chopping it. So I got them all out of the pans and the pots. This is actually 1.5 of them. The other is on the stove right there. It's going to be hot, but we're going to try to work with it. Let's see if we... Let me get you a little closer. We do have a bone right here. And it's still a little bit of fat in here. We're not going to can the fat. So we're just going to try to get it off of this bone and just work with it a little bit at a time. As possible. And we're going to cut it about that size right there. And to do all 3 of these, and I'll bring you right back. This Instant Pot has 1.5 of those. So now we're going to go ahead and work on the other 1.5. So I measured all of the chopped pork and put it in this 2-gallon stock pot. Now we're going to go ahead and add our barbecue sauce. I'm not sure how much we're going to need, but we can always can the rest of this. I counted 32 cups. Best tools in the house are hands. Just get in there. It's warm, but it's not hot. Any of the big pieces, I'm just going in here and breaking them up. Alright, so that's that. I have the pork with the barbecue sauce in here. Pint jars. I have my lids, have my rings, and I have the debubbler. Right over here I have a little bowl of vinegar and a paper towel to wipe the edges down to make sure we have a perfect seal. So we're just going to go ahead and scoop it up and stick it in our jars. This was 27 pounds of pork prior to cooking, so I don't know how many pints I want to get. So once I get it in there, just going to smash it in. We want a 1-inch head space. Trying to get as much bubbles as we can out of it. Then we're going to take our paper towel, put it in the vinegar, wipe the rim, put a new unused lid and a ring, fingertip tight. This is going to go in the canner. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of them done, and I'll bring you right back. So I was able to get 8 on the bottom. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8. So that's 8 pints on the bottom. And there is water in there, according to my manufacturer instructions. Now we're going to put the divider right on top, and then we're going to put another stack right here. Alright, so this is the last jar that I'm going to be able to fit in the canner. So I have the jar, I have the funnel, and I'm just going to put the barbecue pork in here. This is a debubbler. You can use a chopstick, a skewer, the back of a wooden spoon. So we're just forcing it down to the bottom. And we're going to go around the edge. Make sure we get all the bubbles out. And I know you can't see it, but there's an angle to this. So we'll put it on the 1-inch mark and make sure the contents is at 1 inch from the rim. Then we have our paper towel. We're going to put in some vinegar. We're going to run around the edges, because anything that's on that rim of the glass will hinder for the rubber gasket or silicone gasket that's on the lid, and it will prevent it from making a seal. Put that in our canner. And that is the second row of those pints. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8. So a total of 16 pints. Now we're going to put our lid on. With the All-American, you have a notch right here on the base, and there's an arrow right there. That arrow has to line up to that notch. And then it's got little hooks. You want to slide over to hook to the base. Then we have 6 wing nuts on this 921. Just want to put them on, but not secure yet. Then we're going to do a visual to make sure that the gap from the front and the back is equal. And I can tell the front has a little bit more. So loosen up the back and just tighten down the front. I'm just doing a visual all the way around. Okay, now we're going to crank it down. Opposites. Turn, opposite, turn, opposite, turn. So we started this as a cold pack. So our contents was not heated, the jars were not heated, and the canner is not heated. So everything is at room temperature. So our water is room temperature, our jars were room temperature, and our contents, in this case, it's our pork barbecue, is at room temperature. So everything is going to come up to temperature at the same time. We're going to turn it on medium until it starts boiling. And once we get it to a boil, we'll start seeing some steam come out of that steam vent right there. Once that starts steaming, we're going to let it steam for 10 minutes, no less. 10 minutes. And we have our weight. I don't know if you can see it, but it has numbers on it right here. My altitude, we put it on 10 pounds of pressure. Then once it gets up to 10 pounds of pressure, this gauge right here will go to 10. Once that happens, this weight will start jiggling, and that is when our timing starts. We need to can meat. In this case, we're doing pork in pints. We need to can it for 75 minutes under pressure. Time does not start till it reaches 10 pounds of pressure after we put our weight on it. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there is steam coming out of that vent valve. You can see it on the canning lid right there. But it's not a full steam. The water is boiling. It is steaming, but it's not freight train steaming. So we're going to give it a few more minutes. Okay, so we have a full thing of steam coming out, as you can see right there. So our timer is going to start right now. 5:14. At 5:24, we're going to put on the pressure gauge. Okay, now it's been 10 minutes. Our weight is on at 10 pounds of pressure. This gauge will slowly move up to 10 pounds of pressure. The weight will start jiggling and our time will start. I'll bring you back when that happens. Our weight is on. It has been 13 minutes since we put the weight on, and we are already at 5 pounds of pressure. Sorry, the focus is bad, but we're at 5 pounds of pressure. We are at 10 pounds of pressure. Once that starts jiggling, it has a steady jingle, then our time starts. Okay, our time has started. And we're going to set it for 75 minutes. And I'll bring you back in 75 minutes. Alrighty, our 75 minutes has ended. Alright, so now we're just going to turn the flame off. We're going to let the pressure come back down naturally. We're not going to force this. We're not going to pull the weight off. We're going to wait till it comes back to 0. Okay, our pressure has come down to 0. Let's go ahead and take the gauge off. Now it has completely depressurized. And now we're going to go ahead and take the lid off. Opposite wing nuts. We're going to turn it to unlock these little hooks. And we're going to lift it up away from us. And there we go. A jar lifter right here. And there we have a pint of pulled barbecue pork. It has some siphoning. There's some grease on them, so anytime there's grease, you have a chance of it not sealing. So we're just hoping that's going to seal. We'll find out tomorrow. Like I said, there's one jar over there. Looks like it didn't seal, but we'll find out. So tomorrow we'll take the rings off, wash them really well, check the seals, date it, and label it, and we'll put it on our pantry shelf. So until tomorrow, you'll have a wonderful night. Good morning, friends. It's the next day. We finished the pork yesterday. I got all the jars washed, the rings removed. I did have one seal fail, but that's not the lid's fault. That was my fault. I must have had a little bit of grease around the edges that didn't get it sealed. So we have that in the refrigerator, and we can just eat that, within the next week. We'll be fine. But today we're going to finish the canning project by canning the leftover barbecue sauce. So we're doing a cold pack, start off cold cook. So this is the leftover barbecue sauce, and I am putting them in pint jars. And I probably do not even have 3 in here, but I'm not wasting this barbecue sauce. A water bath canning, we're going to go to a 1/2 inch headspace. So I ended up with 2.5 pints of barbecue sauce. And again, we're going to take a paper towel with vinegar on it. We're going to run around the edges. Put a new canning lid on them. And a ring. I've got the 3 jars. That's 2 pints and a 1/2 pint in the canner. I am doing a water bath canner, so I have the water over the jars by 1 inch. We got to bring that to a boil, to a hard rolling boil, and then we're going to boil that for 20 minutes. I am using my pressure canner as a water bath canner. I'm just not locking the lid down. I just have it sitting on there with the hooks sitting on top of the edges. Bring you right back once we get up to a boil. Okay, so our water is boiling. Let's take a peek inside. Alright, so we are boiling. Our time starts right now, so we're going to set the timer for 20 minutes. Alright, so let's put the lid back on it so it can stay boiling. And I'll bring you right back in 20 minutes. Time is done. We have been boiling for 20 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and turn the stove off. And we're going to let it sit there for 5 minutes. Then we'll remove the lid, let it sit for 5 more minutes. Then we'll take our contents out, which in this case is our barbecue sauce. And so that was today's video. We made pork barbecue from 3 shoulders from a total of 27 pounds. We ended up with 18 pint-sized jars. One of them did not seal, but that's okay. We stuck it in the refrigerator. We'll eat that within the next day or 2. Then I had 2 jars worth that I didn't feel like running the pressure canner to just do 2 jars. So we have those in the refrigerator. So we have a total of 3 pints in the refrigerator for us to enjoy for the meantime. And I do have 15 jars going on the pantry shelf. We just took the barbecue sauce out of the hot water bath. So we ended up with 2.5 pints of barbecue sauce for future recipes. So I just want to say thank you for joining me for the last 2 days making pork barbecue and barbecue sauce. We put videos out 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, where we do home cooking from scratch with real ingredients. You have a wonderful day. Thanks for spending the time with me.